Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to City Council for September 19th, 2020. Before we start our service, I would like to just mention and read a thing here on behalf of the Queen. Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II died September 8th, 2022 at the age of 96 years old. Her late Majesty was dedicated sovereign who helped shape our history during her 70 years on the throne. Her commitment to public service and dignified leadership in uncertain times was an example to us all. On her many visits to Alberta, she greeted dignitaries and school children with the same keen interest and showed profound respect for the Indigenous people of this province. The City of Brooks would like to extend a heartfelt condolence to all the members of the royal family. This time we're going to take a moment of silence. Thank you. We would like to acknowledge the traditional territories and the oral practices of the Blackfoot Nation, which include the Siksika, the Kainai, and the Piikani. We also acknowledge the Tsuut'ina and the Stoney Nakoda First Nation, Métis Nation Region 3, and all people who make their homes in the Treaty 7 region of Southern Alberta. We are making this acknowledgement to demonstrate our continuing efforts to work together as we strive for reconciliation through increased and collective learning. And I'd like to do that. Also, I just would like to just briefly say a big thank you to WIC and for the Lift 2.0 over the weekend. What a phenomenal event, and our city staff and all the volunteers that made this event go was just unbelievable. Also, just to those that were part of the car show in this recent past little bit, and also to the Brooks EID Legion number 63 for having a remembrance service for Queen Elizabeth II in her service. At this time, I'm going to call the meeting to order. Is that right? All right, so moved by Councillor Nesbitt that the agenda be adopted. All in favor? All right, carried. All right, we have an agenda before us, and so, is there any items to be added or deleted from the agenda? Seeing none. Okay, and then an adoption of the agenda. I already did that. See, that's how good I am. All right, so we did the motion, we adopted the agenda. All right, we're going to look at the minutes. So, then I do the, yeah, all right. All right, moved by Councillor Prentice that the minutes of the regular council meeting held September 6, 2022 be approved. All in favor? All right, carried. All right, moved by Councillor Wardrop that the June, July, and August 2022 RCMP report be accepted as information. All in favor? Or, nope, now we're going to, sorry. See, that's just how I am, yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Perfect. Trust everybody had a good summer and lots of time off. So I'm here today to present, well, I brought 3 months worth of statistics with me, but we can kind of just go over it as the, you know, as we would say for a quarter or whatnot. So what I'll do is I'll just talk about some notable events, or I'll go into the report first and then I'll talk about the notable events. So this report contains the data and statistics covering the months of June, July, and August. So during those months, Brooks members responded to 1,330 municipal calls for service. We booked a total of 92 prisoners into detachment cells. There were 483 municipal criminal record checks that were completed and a total of 246 violation tickets that were issued within the city. Significant events from the period of June to August of 2022. So June 22nd of 2022, Brooks RCMP members responded to a complaint of a female having been stabbed. Unfortunately, the female died as a result of those injuries. 35-year-old male who was known to the female was arrested and charged with second-degree murder, and that matter is currently before the courts. July 6, 2022, Brooks Detachment RCMP members were advised by a female complainant that her ex-partner was harassing her by following her, watching her and her residence, and by damaging her vehicle. Following an investigation, members charged a 38-year-old male with several offenses, including criminal harassment. The matter as well is currently before the court. And that turned out to be a fairly significant case of criminal harassment as well. August 11th of 2022, Brooks RCMP responded to a complaint from OnStar of a located stolen vehicle that was parked at a local business. Members attended and located the vehicle, viewed video surveillance that was made available to them. During patrols of the area, a male matching the description of the male from the video was located. The male was arrested and charged with possession of stolen property. So a recovered stolen vehicle right there. As for staffing, we have nothing to report at this time. Things are kind of status quo right now. We're anticipating some moves, which should be happening sometime during the fall. Okay, and how would you like to deal with the crime gauges? Do you just want me to go through each one of them, or would you like for me to do the, I can actually do one that goes through January up to August, and that would probably cover it.
I think that'd be fine, thank you.
Okay. So if we look at the period from January to August, so this will be compared to January, the period of January through to August compared to last year at the same time. So persons crimes have gone up by 5%. Property crimes saw a 38% increase. Other criminal code offenses have decreased by 12%. So out of the total criminal code offenses, we've seen an increase of about 16% when we compare to the same period last year. Selected property crimes, so we have break and enters down by 17%. Theft of motor vehicle, we had 3 more instances, bringing that up to 11% increase. 26% increase in theft under 5,000, so that would be 27 more instances. And it's kind of that property crime that we're tracking right now. And I can kind of segue into that. We have some things that are currently trending as issues, and they are theft of motor vehicle, break and enter to residence, theft from motor vehicle, mischief to property, and speeding. I'm also somewhat pleased to say that the mischief to property this time is not graffiti, and it is more traditional mischief, if there is any such a thing. So some of the things we're seeing from that mischief during the summer were house eggings, ding dong ditch is another popular one that's, yeah, same thing. Just all depends on, I guess, where you grew up, what you called it. On the East Coast, we called it, I think it was something 9 doors or knock knock 9 doors. Yeah, something like that. So yeah, those things seem to have become kind of prevalent over the summer, but I guess that's to be expected with people out of school and whatnot. So that's some of the things that we're seeing and that we're dealing with around the city. Are there any questions?
Can I speak? Yes, Staff Sergeant. At the start, you were talking about the crimes of the guy that was harassing his ex-girlfriend. And when you arrest them, how do you keep them away from her at that time? Does he have a court date set right away, or do you get a judgment against him immediately?
So generally, there's a couple of ways that we can go, and we do that on a, it's done on a case-by-case basis depending on the background of the parties. You know, if they have a significant background where they've been involved in multiple domestic violence matters between the two parties, generally, if we think that there's a significant risk, we will hold a bail hearing and attempt to have them held in custody. Or if they're not held in custody, justice of the peace will release them on documents with conditions at that time. So the
Okay.
charge is sworn, conditions are laid. Sometimes we don't necessarily have to go through a judicial interim release hearing. We can actually release them from the detachment on a document to appear in court with attached conditions as well. We can put on conditions of no contact, no go to a residence, no go to an educational facility, different things such as that.
Okay, that
Yeah.
answers my question. Thank you.
Councillor Juska.
Yes, hello, Staff Sergeant. Thank you very much for the information, and
a problem.
congratulations on the arrest and conviction of our resident artist.
Yes.
So we have a huge amount of information here on regarding the city of Brooks and crime statistics. But one of the things that was brought to my attention at a meeting before the summer was that Brooks has a bad reputation for two things, and one of them is that we're crime-ridden. And I don't see it, and I don't know anybody else that really sees it, but it's hard to argue that point without some facts. So what I would really like to see, if you can get such a thing, is some comparative information on major crimes for different Western Canadian communities that we could compare and see just how these numbers stack up against other places, and some would provide ammunition when somebody says, oh yeah, well, I'd never moved to Brooks. You can't walk down the street without getting robbed.
And that's certainly something we can do. I mean, it's not hard to pull those comparisons. The one thing I will say, and I know I deal with this in terms of trying to attract members to Brooks, like our CMP members. Unfortunately, there's a bit of a reputation that has followed, whether it be the detachment or the city or whatnot. And when we talk about the crime rate, I think a lot of people are stuck back in a period of about 10 to 20 years ago, when persons' crime rates were higher and whatnot. I don't think that we're comparing the same numbers nowadays. I think that those numbers are lower, but certainly something that bears some investigating. If we need to kind of dispel some myths or whatever, I would be more than happy to dig up those numbers for you.
Well, looks like you got off easy this time. No,
I did.
I did have one question, though.
Sure.
It says a total of 92 prisoners were lodged. So is that an overnight stay, or is that, how do you measure that?
No, that's various. Basically, anybody that stays overnight, we consider that they were lodged in cells. I mean, we do have people that are put into cells for a very short period of time, and they would be actually, if they were actually put into a cell, they would be captured on that number. So even if they were only in for 4 hours waiting to clear up a warrant, per se, if they had a prisoner report done on them, that would contribute to that 92. So they could have been in for 4 hours, they could have been in for 12, maybe overnight or whatnot. So.
And my last question will be on the speeding violations. Quite the uptick, actually, to 56 compared to last year's 9 and so on and so on. What are some things that maybe you could recommend that we do, or is there, how do you see a solution?
Well, I mean, anytime you see the number of a driving offense increase, I think that a lot of times what is happening is you're also seeing increased enforcement with it, right? So if the members are out there doing more speed enforcement, we're going to see those numbers go up, obviously. The one thing I would say, those speed signs that you see around town in various locations, they're great. I would think if there's ever a chance to maybe install some more, especially if you have any areas that you're concerned about or whatnot, they would be a great addition for that. We're going to maintain our level of traffic enforcement, and plus we also run the enhanced traffic shifts still. So the other thing would be maybe look at some traffic calming if you have areas that are quote-unquote problem areas, but that would be something that an engineer would probably be able to assist with. So.
Just before I hit you, well, I'm not going to hit you, but ask you. Councillor Prentice?
Yeah, I was just wondering on these 246 violation tickets, that covers everything, like from traffic to whatever, does it? Does that cover everything, like all the traffic of every kind?
Yeah,
there could be-
so the majority of those 246, they're from e-ticketing, so that's the electronic ticketing that's done in the police vehicles, and that is almost exclusively traffic tickets. Yeah, traffic tickets, so speeding, red light violations,
Stop signs,
intersection.
Okay, because there's a lot of terrible stuff out there.
What's that?
There's a lot of terrible drivers out there.
Oh, there are, and this is 246 of them got tickets, so.
Councillor Dries?
In domestic violence cases, I know there is some time in order to avoid going to the address, going to a place of work, for
Yes.
example, or something like that. But in our community, I think we can. I think about the group of people that can have work in the same place, and sometimes the idea of asking someone not to go to his own workplace or her own workplace if the other person is there can have multiple other effects in terms of income, in terms of, many other
Correct.
things that could happen. Is there any consideration there? How do you deal with things like that? How do you decide if that is something necessary or not?
Well, we do take into account anytime we're dealing with a dynamic family situation or whatever, and we do realize or recognize that there are families out there that they may suffer a bump in the road, and this is not necessarily a domestic violence charge, may not necessarily be the end of that family unit. So there are considerations given to that on a case-by-case basis. I do know that sometimes we've tried to get the court date set for a very short period of time so that basically, the matter can be resolved and that family can move on. We also have meetings with the Crown, or our domestic violence investigator position that we have does have routine meetings with the Crown, CFS, various other groups and agencies as well. So we do give some consideration to it, as long as it doesn't, basically overstep public safety or personal safety in that case. Did that answer your question, sir, or could I dig down a little bit deeper? We do give consideration to, that being said, we do have to, the safety of the victim a lot of times does have to take precedence in that. But there's probably usually more that we can do, for sure.
All right, if that... Councillor Wardrop?
I was just wondering if you had any certain locations that you're thinking of for additional electronic speeding signal, yeah.
Not off the top of my head.
No? Okay.
That's something that I could certainly talk to my operations NCO about and see if he's aware of, where those problem areas or where those prime locations for that signage might be. Or even if council has a discussion, maybe if the councilors know of any trouble spots that are out there, and you could certainly look at signage for that. But I can certainly check on my end as well.
Yeah, see if there was any uptick in certain areas in this latest trend, that'd be good information for us to find out. And if they're effective in slowing people down, then yeah, it seems like a great tool.
And it's, traffic, as with any other types of crimes, can be a cycle as well. So now we're coming into the, unfortunately, the colder winter months. And, we may see aggressive driving and whatnot, maybe take a bit of a dip, because when the roads get greasy. But, yeah, I would say that I think between the RCMP and council, if we could think of those locations, then yeah, if we could get more signs out there, that might be a great idea.
Councillor Jessica?
Yeah, just that topic does come up fairly regularly at sign committee meetings. So we could also look back at some of the records from there where we've had people suggesting that there's a traffic problem that should be addressed.
Yeah, and if there are people that are coming to you as counselors or whatnot that are, kind of bringing problem traffic areas up to your attention, if you can funnel those down to me or to our detachment, that would be great as well. We do get a lot of calls from people around town saying, you know, there's people speeding on this street or on that street. And we do have a lot of resources that we can deploy when it comes to traffic issues as well. We have, in addition to our own members that we have here that go out and do traffic, we also have those enhanced traffic shifts still, so members are coming in doing those. And we also have a traffic services unit that works out of our building as well. And they come out here and they do a lot of traffic enforcement as well, plus traffic enforcement out of Red Cliff also. So if there's ever a significant issue that you want to see addressed, we can bring in any of those resources to deal with that, so.
Yes, Councillor.
Speaking to that, we've had the issue of speeding downtown brought up, and I think, you know, anecdotally, we can agree that the traffic is certainly at least loud and fast. I've witnessed it quite a few times, so I'll go to, like, I went to Steaming Cup down there. Is that an area that you guys could pay particular attention to in the future?
Yeah, and that actually is an area that our traffic members, the ones who work out of our building, they do actually frequent that area quite a bit, as I found out a couple of times going downtown myself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you see them lurking on the side of the road in their vehicles. So, but we can definitely, if there's an issue in that particular area, we can definitely channel some resources into there, and we can get them to go out and write more tickets or do some education. We can kind of tailor it to basically whatever is needed. So.
Yeah, particularly Second Street, right? That main one where you get the lights down from 7-Eleven or
Yep.
even the set of lights before, right? And people are just race down there. Yeah, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, we can do that. So I'll make a note of that and I'll pass it on when I go in tomorrow morning.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, seeing no other questions, to the motion then, by Councillor Wardrop, that the June, July, and August 2022 RCMP report be accepted as information. All in favor? All right, that's carried. Once again, thank you so much, Sergeant Yetman, for all your hard work and speedy recovery. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Yep. All right, now on to correspondence and information. Councillor conferences and workshops update. And accounts payable. And then now I read this. Okay. Moved by Councillor Idris that the following items of correspondence be received as information. Councillor conferences and/or workshops and accounts payable and listings. And I don't think we have. Oh,
Okay,
Councillor Jessica. You and Mike.
would the provincial health engagement tour fit within that classification? Yeah. Okay, so all the councillors got copies of the program for the presentation that was made by Alberta Health in Bizano, and it went into quite a bit of detail on what's been happening with Alberta Healthcare, what some of the issues are and how they've been trying to target them. So at that particular meeting, we focused on the questions that they wanted some feedback on, like what is our healthcare system doing well, what challenges currently exist within our healthcare system. In addition to what is currently being done, how can we better address those challenges, and what can you do to improve the provision of healthcare in your community? So it covered a wide range of topics and was attended by a fairly wide range of people, from members of the healthcare profession to elected officials and in between. So they were looking for feedback, positive and negative, and I think it went quite well, and I kind of look forward to seeing what comes out of this tour. If you go back to what they're saying they have in the works or are doing at this time, we should be seeing some improvements. But the other thing that came out of this is we all do recognize the challenges that they face.
Absolutely. Thank you for the update. Okay. All right, then, accounts payable, that's in our... Is there any other reports to go on? All right, we'll vote on the motion. Moved by Councillor Idris that the following items of correspondence be received as information. All in favor? All right, carried. I'm going to get it in. All right. Moved by Councillor Jessica that September 30th, 2022 be hereby proclaimed as National Day of Truth and Reconciliation in the City of Brooks. And that will be Amy.
Thank you. Through the chair to Deputy Mayor and Council. In 1973, Phyllis Webstad received a new orange shirt from her grandmother for her first day at St. Joseph's Residential School. When Phyllis arrived, her clothes, including her orange shirt, were taken from her. It left her feeling insignificant and worthless. September 30th has traditionally commemorated Orange Shirt Day, when Indigenous children were historically forced to attend residential schools at the end of September. Even though the residential schools are now closed, these school survivors and their families are still enduring the intergenerational trauma from the loss of culture and language and the abuse they have experienced. Since May of last year, the remains of more than 1,800 unmarked graves of Indigenous children have been found at residential schools. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission was established in 2008 to document the effects of residential schools on Indigenous people. They released a report on 94 calls to action in 2015. One action called for a National Day of Remembrance for residential school survivors. National Day for Truth and Reconciliation seeks to honor the resilience of residential school survivors, their families and communities, and to provide a way to publicly commemorate the history and legacy of residential schools as it remains a vital component of the reconciliation process. Therefore, administration is recommending that September 30th, 2022 be hereby recognized as National Day for Truth and Reconciliation in the City of Brooks.
Is there any questions at this time? Councillor Idris.
Thank you, Amy. So are we doing anything in the city on that day?
Through the chair to Councillor Idris. At this time, we are not. Unfortunately, our HR and Inclusion Advisor position is still vacant, and I believe both school systems are out that day. But next year, we're hoping to do something either the day before or after if the schools are out.
Thank you. Is that it? Okay. Well, I would just say this, that there is always the opportunity to wear your shirt, your orange shirt, and I know you can purchase it at local retail stores in town, or if you still have yours from the previous years, to wear that and support it, and take some time and brush up on our history. This is an important thing, an important event that we need to be constantly and continually working on as a city and as local businesses and residents of this great city. All right, so to the motion, that September 30th, 2022 be hereby proclaimed as National Day of Truth and Reconciliation in the City of Brooks. All in favor? All right, carried. Okay, so, okay, we're now going to, all right, moved by Councillor Nesbitt that the tax sales under the authority of the MGA be held on Thursday, November 17th, 2022 at 2 p.m. in council chambers, and that a reserve bid be set as specified on the attached notice, and further, that all subject properties be sold in accordance with the following conditions: as is, where is, cash, certified check, Interact, or bank draft with a minimum 10% non-refundable deposit on the day of sale, balances due within 10 days of the date of the auction. And Shelley is going to speak to this.
Thank you. Through the chair to Deputy Mayor and Council. So sections 418, 419, 421, and 436.1 of the MGA, Municipal Government Act, outline the procedures related to the tax recovery process for parcels of land and for designated manufactured homes. One of the final measures available to the municipality is to offer for sale at a public auction any parcel of land or designated manufactured home if the tax arrears are not paid. The reserve bid and conditions of the sale for each parcel of land and designated manufactured home must be set by council. So attached is the list of the 2022 tax sale properties at this point, representing parcels of land and designated manufactured homes. Benchmark Assessments has estimated the market value for each of these in order to establish the reserve bids. So our recommendation is that a tax sale under the authority of the MGA be held on November 17th, 2022 at 2 p.m. in council chambers, and the reserve bids be set as specified on the attached notice, as well as the other conditions of the auction that were listed previously, as is whereas cash certified check, Interact or bank draft with minimum 10% non-refundable deposit on the day of sale. The balance is due within 10 days of the date of the auction. Also attached to the report is just previous trends of tax recovery. The part that says auction proceedings is the amount of auction proceedings that came to council when we set the conditions. Administration tries very hard to contact everybody and get them set up, either help them find a way that they can clear up their arrears, usually through our tax arrears payment plan. So often there are no auctions by the date of sale. So between now and the date of sale, we'll work hard to work with all of our residents in that regard.
Okay, any questions on this motion? Councillor Dries.
So the reserve bid is based on the assessment, so that means maybe the tax they owe is less than that or more than, so this is more assessment?
Yes, through the chair to councillor address. So the reserve bid is based on market value. Often it's based off the assessment, but the assessor actually goes out and just makes sure that his assessment is as close as reasonably practicable to represent market value.
Okay. And then in the graphs, just to understand, so for example, if I look at 2018, it says 63. These are 63 properties that we had to register lien on for that year, and then we brought to council 16, and then nothing went to auction, or how is that?
So it's kind of a complex situation, but in most, based on the legislation, for a home that land is attached, for instance, and even for modular homes, once a lien is placed, the property tax sale for that property wouldn't take place until the lien has been on the property for 1 full year. So the graph is for the year of 2018, for instance, when those liens were placed, that would represent how many the properties that went to auction in 2019. So as you can see, we work with our residents and try and get it down so that they can make those payments and
So then
clear up their arrears.
Actually, 14 went on auction.
14 came to council when we were setting the reserve bids. And I don't actually have, but each year we might have 1 or 2 go to auction. Often we don't have any at all, just because from the time we set the reserve bids until the auction date, they're obviously notified and it's advertised. And again, we reach out to them, or they reach out. We hope that they reach out to us, but we do reach out to them and try and stop the auction. And usually with a tax arrears payment plan is one option, or that's, if we have an agreement with them, then we can take them off the tax recovery list.
So I think it would be good to have a graph that has that third group of properties. Will be nice to have.
I will note that. And I can also follow up in an email of how many actually went to auction, but typically few do. But I'll send that information out to council
Thank you.
as a follow-up.
Councillor Wardrop. Oh, that was it? He answered it? Okay. All right, to the motion then. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay. Carried. Oh, no, sir. Like Thor, you know, Thor, come on. All right. So we're going to call the hearing to order. Just pull my notes up here. And whereabouts? Oh, right there. Okay. All right, we're going to have a public hearing now. It's after 5:06. So we're going to have a public hearing, and then I'm going to read this part. Oh, Gavin's? There's Gavin up there. Hello, Gavin, can you hear us okay?
I can.
Can we get him turned up a little bit, please? You might need to speak up a little bit.
I will.
Okay. Gavin, please proceed.
Okay, this evening, we have public hearing for bylaw 2205 and amending bylaw to the land use bylaw 1412 in regards to the introduction of kenneling as a proposed use in the land use bylaw. Kenneling currently is prohibited in the town or in the city of Brooks. There are two similar uses that don't quite cover kenneling. They are the pet grooming establishments and veterinary clinics. The kenneling falls outside of those two uses and needs to be added to the bylaw to be allowed within city limits. This item was taken to council committee and was discussed at length with options. Several options were placed in front of council committee, and the resulting bylaw is in front of you this evening. The details of that resulting bylaw are that a definition was defined. That definition reads that kenneling means the development for the purpose of boarding small animals normally considered as household pets and includes indoor and outdoor enclosures, pens, runs, and exercise areas. This land use may also include training, grooming, impounding, quarantining facilities, animal shelters, and retail sales of associated products. This land use shall not be closer than 450 meters from any residential dwelling unit or existing or future residential land use. There was also several criteria put onto the kenneling proposal, control of hours of operation for the outdoor kenneling, as well as this distance of 450 meters from any residence. The bylaw was circulated to the to the county of Newell, who responded that they had no concerns. It was also placed in the newspaper. The newspaper ad was placed for 2 consecutive weeks, and it resulted in no responses from the public. Although this morning we did receive an email from Shauna Mulkelke, a citizen owning the Corlin Ventures Limited business in the industrial park. And that letter was circulated to council, and if you so wish, I can read that into the record. But from the point of view of the letter writer is in favor of the use being added to the land use bylaw, but does feel that the restrictions that are placed upon it are too restrictive. So not very clear on the details of which criteria the applicant is not in favor of, but certainly they see that there are certain criteria that are too restrictive and could be loosened up. So from there, this use would be added to the land use bylaw as a discretionary use in the industrial districts. And certainly from that point of view, it has some control measures with it. Certainly this evening recommendation from staff is that we move forward with second and third, and I will entertain any questions you might have on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gavin. At this time, we're going to have any people in the room that are speaking in favor of the proposed bylaw. And I'd ask that you come up, state your name for the record, and welcome to council.
Kelsey Stiles. I have a few points here that I just wanted to touch on. Firstly, We're excited that this bylaw was passed. We are finding, as Shauna stated in her letter, that some of the stipulations are a little bit restrictive. Financially, we'll be competing with oil field companies in the industrial park. Rent out there is a lot higher than it would be in other commercial spaces. So that's one of our points there. The 450 meters from residential, while we understand the council's concern with noise, other cities don't have like an exact distance from residential spaces aside from Calgary, which is 150 meters. So our restriction is 3 times that, which seems a little bit excessive. Another point we had with the industrial area is it's somewhat inconvenient to our clients. This isn't like a shop where we're storing equipment. This is going to be somewhere where people come twice a day to drop off their pets. It's supposed to be helpful in their day, and we just find that it's a little bit out of the way in doing so. Another point that we wanted to make in regards to the noise, I don't think it's naive to think that Brooks residents having a place for their dogs to socialize, burn off energy, and make noise all in one place might help make neighborhoods a little bit quieter in the end, right? Like all of our dogs are coming, burning off all this energy, doing their thing throughout the day, and then maybe the residents' areas are a little bit quieter and there's less dogs in the backyards that are bored. So that was another point we wanted to make. Yeah, those were kind of our biggest takeaways from the bylaw that was passed.
Is there any others who would like to speak in favor of this motion? Thank you. Okay, seeing none, and those that would be speaking against this motion? Seeing none, okay. And we'll get some final comments from you.
I have no further comments from my end. I just had the one letter that Gavin's already mentioned.
Okay. Okay. Councillor. Yeah.
Yeah, Gavin, when you were looking into this, and it seems to me that when we were looking into it, there was you did look at other communities and the distances they were using for approvals for similar facilities. 300 meters comes to mind. Is my recollection correct, or was there a fairly standard number?
Yeah, so we were looking at cities of similar size. Certainly I can appreciate the citizens looking at Calgary and different larger cities. Cities of similar size, that 300 meter number did come up, and it was discussed with council as to whether that was appropriate. The decision was certainly in between what the County of Newell does, which is 1,000 meters. So that's certainly a bigger distance. Rural's having much more space. Maybe that makes sense in the rural. Compromise was certainly one of the discussion points for council, is coming up with a number. And so that's where we ended up, was at 450 meters.
Okay, thank you. All right, is there any other questions at this time? Seeing none, okay, I'm going to declare, what am I declaring? The public hearing is closed. Thank you. All right. Okay, so we're going to jump back to our public consultation platform. And I will read the motion on that. Moved by Councillor Prentice that the council award the public consultation platform request for proposal to Thornley Fallis Communications in the amount of $9,960 per year, excluding GST, to be funded from the operating budget, and furthermore, that the contract be for 3 years. And Lisa.
Thank you. Through the chair to Deputy Mayor and Council. For the past several years, the city has utilized a cloud-based platform to seek community feedback on the preparation of our annual budget. For the past several years, we've noticed some changes to the program, so staff began looking at some new options. We have budgeted $10,000 per year for this program. And while we know that budget consultation is important and falls within our public participation policy, there are platforms available that can also provide a full range of consultation tools, and which could be used by various departments throughout the year. To this effect, a public consultation platform, Request for Proposals, was released in August, and 2 proposals were received. After our small team reviewed the proposals and had a demonstration of each platform, staff has selected 76 Engage, which is provided by Thornley Follis Communications. This new platform will become an integral tool that allows residents of Brooks to share perspectives on key projects to help shape Brooks's future, create a collaborative and inclusive place where people can examine the current state of the city, and to share ideas to make our community stronger. 76 Engage will be managed and operated by our communications team, and we will assist other departments in setting up surveys, public forums, Q&A sessions, discussion boards, and moderated sessions. The 76 Engage proposal met all of our requirements for platform features, functionality and comprehensiveness, data security, customer service, and professional references. Their total subscription fee is under budget at $9,960 per year, which includes all applicable setup fees, launch fees, and then additional hours for ongoing services and support. The other firm that submitted a proposal also met all the requirements, but was at a higher price point per year, and staff found that 76 Engage's profile was more user-friendly from both an internal and external perspective. So at this time, staff is recommending that council award the public consultation platform request for proposal to Thornley Follis Communications. And if you have any questions, please let me know.
All right, is there any questions on this? Yes, Councillor Wardrop.
You sound excited about this. You're selling it. I have questions. So there's a mention of surveys, public forums, Q&As, discussion boards, etc. Are those all like internet-based, or are those instances where people can come to a place and gather and have these Q&As, or what does it look like?
Through the chair to Councillor Wardrop, we have a lot of flexibility with the program. Well, essentially, most of it will be cloud-based, and it'll be like a website landing page where there will be a number of different opportunities for people to participate in either a survey that's going on or a Reddit-style discussion board, moderated sessions which we can schedule, public hearings or open houses. Then if we want to also take the platform out into the public, then we can do so on either a kiosk, a pedestal, or at a meeting. In the past, we've also taken surveys to Bandits games or places that we know that people are gathering as well to seek additional feedback. So there's a lot of flexibility in it. If we wanted to host an open house or something here at City Hall or at the rec center, then we can have the platform set up on a smart board or something like that to solicit feedback.
I would like to see more of that happening. I remember when this came to council last year and the data that was presented, it was really shocking how apathetic people were to engage even on the internet, right? Where we all have access, we're all seeing it, but people just don't want to click on it. They don't want to engage online as much as potentially if we had like a kiosk at a Bandits game or an open house or at the farmer's market or whatever. So I'm all for this. This sounds great. And I like the flexibility that you'd have in engaging people face to face. So I like this. And let's add more of that face to face, kind of getting out in the community and meeting people where they're at. Yeah, thanks.
Excellent, thank you. Maha, or Councillor Dries.
Can we have a demonstration?
Yes, on October 15th, when we launch the Brooks budget consultation, our team's going to be working really hard to get this up and running in the next, I guess, 4 weeks, essentially, trying to get the budget consultation piece launched. And then beyond that, for all of the supplemental consultation aspects that we'll be able to provide through the platform, we'll get lots of opportunity to demonstrate what it looks like and to test the different features of it. But for the very short term, we're going to be pushing really hard just to get the budget consultation launched.
All right, any other questions? I'll just say that, thank you so much. I know public engagement is on the forefront of the city, and we always like to hear encouraging words and just correction and how we can make the city run better. And hopefully this platform will do better than our previous ones. Thank you. All right, to the motion, all in favor? All right, carried. All right. All right. I read this one. Moved by Councillor Wardrop that bylaw number 22/05 be read a second time. And we'll have discussion on this, please. Was anyone? Oh, Councillor Wardrop, please.
Thank you. All right. So I'd like to discuss a couple issues with this bylaw. First and foremost, I see that the reason that this was brought was that local entrepreneurs are inquiring about the ability to establish a new kenneling service within the city limits. And the way that the bylaw is currently written, particularly with the 450-meter restriction away from residential areas, I think it's way too restrictive. So back to our last council meeting where I brought that up before Councillor Idris called us out on point of order, but I'd like to expand further on that. So the 450 meters would essentially push people further back into the industrial area where it would be really difficult to start up a small business. So the industrial area caters to oil and gas companies. Rent would be really hard to make ends meet at the very least. The big thing seems to be the noise, and I'm not sure what problem we are trying to fix here, if there is a problem. I know last meeting there was a mention of BAPS. I brought up BAPS because I don't hear of any complaints. You know, I read the complaints report that we get every month from administration, and I haven't seen in almost a year now any complaints about BAPS or the noise. We had the Newell Vet Clinic right in town. There's regardless of it's animal or not animal, there are noisy or louder businesses that operate near residents that don't seem to be an issue. And it's my thought that any business that is trying to bring a needed service to the city should be, we shouldn't be creating problems or more roadblocks where they aren't there to begin with. Yeah, the services are needed here in Brooks, particularly for pet owners, right? We only have one kennel. It's not within the city limits. It's located in the county, and it adds to our overall lack of pet services in the city. We want to offer services that are similar to our larger centers, and we're losing potential tax dollars and business and revenue, and people just coming to Brooks to stay because there is a lack of these types of services here. The other thing, so that's the 450 meters restriction thing. My suggestion would be to totally get rid of the 450 meter restriction, leave it zoned industrial, or even potentially even expand that to mixed use, like under discretionary terms, or even like mixed commercial or commercial with the city's discretion. And the reason I say that, right, like if we already have in the bylaw that it has to be in a industrial zone anyway, that naturally takes it away from residential areas anyway, with the exception of the east side of town, which, like, there's the cement plant there, there's the train, there's a bunch of other stuff that is already kind of noisy, and it just, I can't see a business like this creating problems for residents. The other thing, geez, I hope I got all of that down there. The other thing was the times for the dogs to go outside. So in the bylaw, it's 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Monday to Friday, but then 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. on weekends. Yeah, I would like to see that changed to 7 a.m. on weekends, because I don't see, you know, if a business is already in an industrial area where it's going to be a reasonable space away from residents, the difference between 7 a.m. and 9 a.m. there is no difference. The only difference that will be felt will be the dogs that have to go out to use the bathroom at 7 a.m. In closing, like in general, I guess, the problem, like there is no problem, okay? If we just leave this in designated zones that are generally away from residential areas, we don't have to have this 400-meter restriction. If we do, we're limiting a lot of potential business and a lot of potential services for citizens of Brooks, and it just rubs me the wrong way that if this was brought to us because somebody wants to start a business, they want to offer a service for people here, that it would be shut down because of these unnecessary restrictions. I think that's all for now. I don't know if I covered it all.
You did great. All right, any other comments on that? Councillor Jessica.
Well, you're saying it's going to deter a lot of businesses. I think that's a bit of hyperbole. We were talking about one and maybe a few more, but it is a needed service. You know, I have a dog. My family's had dogs, so. You know, the impact on the economy of the city of Brooks, I think, would not be that great. The suggestions you're having would give it the ability to be closer to residential areas, but at the same time, you're suggesting that they allow them to put them outside early in the morning on weekends. So that's the kind of thing that would upset residential people if you did allow them to be close to those areas. And I guess one reason I do like the industrial areas is the properties and the buildings are better suited to this kind of application. You have more room, buildings are more designed that you could break them up into appropriate housings for the animals and that. So, you know, really, I guess I might be a little bit flexible on the distance, but anything that would put it closer to residential areas, I don't know, I really question that.
Councillor Warder.
The thing is that if we agreed that these types of kenneling businesses would be in industrial or light industrial zones anyway, they're not, like if you, we have the map, right? They're really not close to a lot of residential areas anyway. My point is that it's like adding another block to, like another roadblock, another barrier for somebody to set up a business. Because totally agreed, a lot of those buildings in industrial zones are more suited for those animals and their space outside to set them up and whatnot. And those areas are also naturally away from residential areas. They're not kind of plopped in the middle of residential areas. And the thing is like there are these exceptions around town that could work. Like the Newell Vet Clinic is a good example. I think of that, where so technically that definitely would fall within that 450 meter limit, but you know, or BAPS. BAPS is another is an example that it really comes to mind. Naturally, where that space would work for those animals, it's just not going to be close to that many houses.
Well, when you referred to the map, and one of the things that was put into the map was places that aren't residential at this time, but could be residential in the future. So I guess what we're trying to do here is, rather than do something and then years down the road saying, I wish we hadn't done that, you know, trying to be proactive here. BAPS did come up at the last meeting, and I'm a supporter of BAPS. I actually took them a bunch of hand sanitizer today from Newell Recycling because they could use it. And but would you put BAPS where it is now if you had it to do over again?
Was that hypothetical, or you want me to answer?
No, really, and I guess
And I would. I think
at last discussion, it was mentioned that there were some complaints, but one thing that kind of happens with the complaints is they're made and nothing happens, and then so, okay, well, I tried, and then life just carries on. So they've been there quite a while, they're grandfathered in, but in hindsight, it does get pretty noisy there sometimes. We walk our dog past there, and that arouses quite a bit of activity in the back, even when we're walking by over by where Snyder's Auto Records used to be, a couple hundred feet to the east. So it does get noisy, but people there have no choice,
Point of
really.
order. We'll just slow down on the debate there a bit. I'm going to ask if there's any other councillors that have a question or concerns. Yep.
But the idea of the whole bylaw to start with was so we don't have that problem with a kennel too close to a residential area. You talk about vet clinics, they don't kennel dogs, they look after them, treat them, so they're not even in this picture as far as I'm concerned. So the idea is to get a distance that we don't have kennels within a residential, so that's all we're looking for. Maybe the distance is too far, but we've got to have some restrictions.
Okay. I'm going to refer this back to Alan.
I guess how we move forward on this, Councillor Wardrop has talked about a couple things that she would like to see changed, and one is either, well, I think she said getting rid of the 450 meters out of the definition, and the other is changing the times that the animals can be outside during the weekends. I would suggest that we do one amendment at a time, starting with an amendment on the one aspect of it at a time, just to not get the amendment convoluted, and potentially you could start with an amendment to the distance issue, and if Councillor Wardrop would like to put something forward there, we can entertain that.
Just ask for a point of clarification then, Alan, on this. We're voting on, though, the bylaw as it stands. So now we're putting in an amendment? Motion to amend. Okay, just one point of clarification. Thank you. Yep.
I'd like to make a motion to amend the proposed bylaw to get rid of the 450 meter restriction away from residential areas. Do I have to say the other part, Alan?
There should be do we feel there should be a restriction?
I guess a couple things here. If you want it totally removed, and then it would be at the discretion of the MPC as to if it's suitable in the location that comes forward. With regards to the hours of operation for outside, having the animals outside, I would leave that to a separate amendment. Otherwise, it could get a little convoluted.
Okay, so I can try that again then. So I'd like to motion to remove the 450-meter restriction and instead have no restriction to residential area and instead leave that to the MPC's discretion.
So if I've got this correct, you're saying that that bylaw 2205 be amended by removing the 450-meter separation from residential areas? Something like that.
Okay. Okay, so I'll read the motion again, and then we would vote on that. Okay, moved by Councillor Wardrop that bylaw 22-05 be amended by removing the 450-meter separation from the residential areas. And we're voting on the amendment at this time, and then we'll go back to the original, or to, if it passes. All right, those in favor? Those against? We're at a standstill.
So it's defeated.
It's defeated. Okay.
Now another similar motion that maybe changes that can come forward as well.
Councillor Idris.
I would like to put in a motion to amend the bylaw for the distance to be 150 meter.
Can we take a minute to look at that map and what that 150 meters would look like?
Yeah. So 150 meters would be about 270 yards. So think of a Saskatchewan football field and a little bit more. Go Riders. Okay.
I don't know.
150 meters.
Well, that motion was defeated, so we have to.
I think you'd have to speak to the motion at this
I'll-
time.
I'll speak to the
Yeah.
motion. I'll speak to the motion. Like, I think I support many of the points Marissa brought forward. The business is needed. The bylaw is restrictive. That puts it in a very small area in outside technically not outside the city, but it's a distance. But at the same time, I also recognize the concerns that people have from noise. We talked about even things around adjacent buildings and sharing ventilations and things like that. So I think 150-meter stipulation will be somewhere in the middle. Some sort of a restriction added to the definition will be good. If it is anything beyond that, the MCP will have the discretion to deal with that.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. Thank you. Councillor Wardrop.
Could anybody in administration tell me how far BAPS is from a resident, like a residence?
80 meters, isn't it?
80 meters? Okay.
Alicia? Yeah, Alicia's nodding yes.
Can I make I would like to. 80 meters. 80 meters.
No, just one second.
Do we have to vote on that?
So we do have a motion on the floor.
See if you can read that.
Oh,
Make sure it's.
Dr. Allen here. Okay. Bylaw 22-05 being amended by changing the distance separation from residential areas from 450 meters to 150 meters. All in favor of that? No, the last one was defeated, so we're revoting. So it's 150 meters. Marissa's, or Councillor Wardrop, sorry, my apologies, was no meters, so no restrictions. So this would be 150 meter.
We can have discussion.
Yeah, we can have discussion. Your mic, please, Councillor Wardrop.
I think the 80 meters then would be a fair compromise because BAPS doesn't seem to have any significant issues in terms of disturbing residents. It's accessible in town. I honestly think that that's a big part of it too, is that having those services accessible with within the city. You know, when Councillor Jessica asked, like, would I put BAPS in the same spot? I think I would. It's a great spot for it. You know, it's kind of on the one edge of the city, but it's close enough that it's accessible, right? We want people to be close enough to those services. I think 80 meters would be a good compromise then between the 0 and 150 meters. I would like to see 80 meters then.
Okay, so just, yeah, we're still discussing. Councillor Nesbitt, please.
I'm just concerned that if you say, I think, just reading the field here, 150 meters would probably pass, but I don't think 80 meters would.
Why not? I don't, like, BAPS is,
I'm not, the heck with BAPS.
well, not to
Yeah.
heck with BAPS.
Sorry, just to interrupt, you got to address it through the chair. But we have a motion on the floor that we should vote on first. If it's defeated, then we can go back to the 80 meters. Correct? And then we can do another amendment. All right. So I'll read this again. Councillor Idriss motion that the bylaw 22-05 be amended by changing the distance separation from residential area from 450 meters to 150 meters. All in favor of that? Okay. All right. Those opposed? Okay. So that is passed. All right. Thank you. Okay, so back now to the second motion that you're going to put forward, right? Would that be correct? Am I okay to say that? Yep. No?
Let's see.
And that's concerning the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, I motion that the current time restrictions from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. in the proposed bylaw be amended to 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. on the weekends.
Thank you. All right, Councillor Wardrop moved that, yeah, I can fill in the blank. Moved that bylaw 22-05 be amended by changing the time the animals can be outside, no, I think it was when business operations could be. Okay, sorry. The animals can be outside to 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. on weekends, which it's 10. Yeah. All right, 10 p.m. on weekends. To that motion, all in favor? Those opposed? 1, 2. All right, that passes. Carried. Now, is there any other amendments we would like to make at this time? And then,
Reading as amended.
Alan, I'm not allowed to make a motion on the, like, I'm not allowed to propose the 80, that we vote on the 80 meters now, am I?
Through the chair to Councillor Wardrop, you can make a motion to amend it again by taking it from 150 meters to 80 meters.
I would make that motion. Can I speak to that?
you may speak to it.
All right. I would invite you all to consider again that 80 meters would be a reasonable distance away from residents, as BAPS is not currently a noise issue, a air pollution issue, a accessibility issue, an eyesore. It's none of those things. It, in fact, is a very well-loved place for people to go. People in Brooks love their animals, and we want to see these services close by and accessible for people. removing, like, going down to 80 meters would open up a whole other avenue of spaces that are reasonably far enough from residents where people could open a business and have competitive rental, like competitive rates for buildings, and establishing a new business, and you know, we keep saying how much we want businesses to, new business, local business, shop local. This would be a tangible way that we can help make that happen. There isn't a problem with BAPS being too close to residential areas. So I think that it's reasonable to assume that if these types of businesses remain at the distance where BAPS currently operates now, that would be a win for everybody. So I would like to make a motion that we amend the current, do I say amendment? From 150 meters to 80 meters away from residential areas.
Did you want to speak to that? I saw you. Is there any comments or? Okay. All right. Moved by Councillor Wardrop that bylaw 22-05 be amended by changing the distance separation from residential areas to 80 meters from 150 meters. All in favor, sir? Those opposed? Defeated. All right, we're now going to vote on the second motion that you're going to bring. Oh, no, we did that. We did that. We're good. Okay. All right. This is.
You have to vote on the second motion.
Okay, we'll vote on second motion as amended. Second reading as amended. All in favor? Yep. Okay. Opposed? This is for second reading. All right, passed. Okay. So where am I signing? Okay. Moved by Councillor Jessica that bylaw number 22-05 being a bylaw of the City of Brooks in the province of Alberta, to amend bylaw number 14-12 being the bylaw, being the land use bylaw, be read a third time and adopted. Now, we need a unanimous?
No.
Not for this?
The reason you need unanimous consent for third reading here is because you've already done first reading at a different meeting, and you only need the unanimous consent if you do all three readings at the same meeting.
Okay. Those in favor? Opposed? Okay, it's carried. There you go. All right. Where are we here? Questions from the media. Please, Sandra.
Thank you. Just a point of this last discussion question, please, if you wouldn't mind. If the amendment, if the bylaw was amended twice, does it not have to go to the public once more prior to third reading?
I'll let Alan answer that.
I don't believe it does, but I'll turn it over to Gavin, our professional, to see if we are right. But there are amendments that naturally come forward at these public hearings. Otherwise, you could go on forever.
I believe Gavin has left. I'm asking because it's a land use bylaw. That's why I was asking.
I don't believe so.
Is that all, Sandra? Okay, thank you. Moved by Councillor Dries that the meeting be adjourned at 5:50 or 5:49, right? 5:49. All in favor? All right, carried. Thank you very much.